All right, let's get right into it. Over the next few minutes, we're going to break down a framework designed to help you stop just giving status updates and start actually shaping strategy. It's all about changing how you communicate to build real trust and influence with your executive team.
So let's start with a quote that probably hits a little too close to home for a lot of us. It describes that moment, you know the one, where all your team's hard work meets executive opinion and everything just goes off the rails. I want you to picture this. A product team is walking into a meeting with a notoriously demanding CEO. It feels like they're walking into the lion's den. Their last two attempts to present the quarterly plan, filled with beautiful, polished roadmaps, were absolute disasters, just shredded in favor of the CEO's pet projects.
But this time is different. The team lead, let's call her Maria, walks in with no PowerPoint. Instead, the entire whiteboard is covered in what looks like a messy, hand-drawn diagram. The CEO walks in, takes one look, and says, "What is this mess? Where's the roadmap?"
And this really gets to the heart of the problem, doesn't it? Your team does all the research. You build this solid, logical case, only to have it completely derailed by the HiPPO, the highest paid person's opinion in the room. It is so frustrating, and frankly, it often leads to some really bad decisions.
What Maria did represents a really fundamental shift in thinking. She moved away from the old way, which is basically a sales pitch for a pre-baked conclusion, and she embraced a new way, showing her work. She gave them a guided tour of her team's entire thinking process.
So, if that old conclusion first pitch is so broken, what's the alternative? Well, let's break down the framework that can turn these high-stakes opinion battles into genuinely productive, collaborative sessions.
The big idea here is actually pretty simple, but it's incredibly powerful. You don't just jump to your answer, you show exactly how you got there. By making your discovery process totally transparent, you anchor the entire conversation in shared goals and actual evidence, not just competing opinions.
And this communication funnel is really the engine of the whole framework. Instead of starting at the end, you take your stakeholders on a journey. You start with the big why, the business outcome you're all aiming for. Then you explore the opportunities, weigh the choices, look at the evidence, and only then do you get to the next step. It's a logical flow that just naturally builds trust as you go.
You know, the most important thing here is that you are fundamentally changing the role of the stakeholder. They're no longer just a gatekeeper, someone who gives you a thumbs up or a thumbs down. They become a collaborator, someone you're inviting in to pressure test your logic and add their own unique perspective. This doesn't just get you buy-in, it actually makes the strategy itself stronger.
Okay, so that's the framework. But how do you actually put this into practice? Let's talk about some concrete actions your team can start using like tomorrow. For your team, try starting with these 4 things. Honestly, the most powerful one is just to ban conclusion-first presentations. Make it a hard and fast rule. We always show the why before we show the what. And then, make your thinking visible. Use something like an opportunity solution tree as a living document that everyone can see and interact with. Now, if you're a leader, your job is to create the space for this to happen. So instead of asking for a feature roadmap, ask for an outcome roadmap. When a team brings you a plan, your first question should be, okay, show me the tree. Walk me through how you got here. And this is crucial, you have to model this behavior yourself.
But look, this approach isn't a magic bullet. There are definitely pitfalls. Show your work does not mean show all of your work. You have to tailor the story for your audience, or you'll just overwhelm them with detail. The goal is to share your logic to build their confidence, not to ask for their sign-off on every tiny decision along the way.
So, what can you do to get this started right away? Let's boil this all down to one simple, powerful action you can take with your team first thing next week.
This is it. This is the big takeaway. Just one simple directive that completely reframes the very next stakeholder conversation your team has. It forces that shift away from just selling a solution to telling the story of how you got there, starting with the why.
And to wrap things up, here's a final question to think about. Just take a look at the projects you're working on right now and ask yourself this. I bet the answer will point you to the exact conversation where this framework could make the biggest difference for you and your team.